We've all heard the expression, stop and smell the roses. But have you actually thought about what it takes to do a simple task, like actually looking at and smelling a rose? First, photons of light traveling insanely fast hit the rose and reflect out. The photons reach our eyes and activate the antennas in our retinas. Our eyes then send a signal to our brain, and our visual perceiving center understands red flower. Then we lean over the flower and we inhale. Chemicals and particles emitted by the rose travel through the air, are caught in the air current created by our inhalation, and other antennas in our nose catch those particles and send information to our brain, where the brain processes that information and understands fragrant. And that's using only 2 senses for a single action. The way we understand the world around us comes from only 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. We use those senses so much, so fast, and so frequently that we usually stop noticing we're doing it at all. This is unless you're like me and have synesthesia. Synesthesia basically means that when all the senses are sending signals to the brain, the signals are completely mixed up. Normal people see a color or hear a sound or taste a flavor. But for someone like me, the 5% of the population who have the condition synesthesia, we get to experience something so much more. Our world is filled with a brightness that comes from all directions. We get to taste the colors of the wind. We feel the music like it's a beating heart, and we see the temperature. But while this is an amazing way to look at the world, sometimes in these moments when I get to taste something no one else can, I feel so alone. There's almost no one else out there like me. For centuries, medical science disregarded synesthesia. Yet, in the past decades, scientists and researchers have started to conduct experiments that have shown synesthesia as a real condition. The strongest evidence comes in a simple fact. The associations of senses are always the same, and they are involuntary. In other words, when we claim that the letter L is purple, the L is always that way. We can't change the association, and, most importantly, we're not making it up. Synesthesia, for me, the simple word explains the world I live in every day. When I was little, words like synesthesia were not a common term used a lot, and I really struggled to try to explain to others what I saw and how I sensed things. None of my experiences sounded like anything the other kids at school described at all. And when I tried to describe what I saw or felt or heard, it sounded like I was making up some science fiction story. They never believed me, and because I was unable to describe what it was like, I was an outcast, with no one to talk to. I wrote short stories as a kid, and people said, "Wow, what vivid descriptions," or "What poetic language." But when I said that's how things actually were, people picked on me for thinking that such things were possible. It was hard to listen to their words. My anger turned silver. Literally, I saw the heat coming off my own body in the form of different colors. Depending on my emotions, the very heat from my skin would appear as green, silver, blue, lavender, or gold. Everyone's flame always looks a little bit different from each other. I see light coming from people. Whenever I walk or pass by someone, I can see their emotions in forms of colors bouncing off them like waves. I wish I could explain it better, but how can I explain a sensation that's caused by the mixing of sensations? How can I even begin to describe a sight that 95% of the population doesn't have the privilege of seeing? Where words fail me, I could only state the obvious. It was beautiful. The biggest sense for me is touch. A piano note drops thousands of freezing blue crystals onto my skin. A guitar chord warms the top of my head. A drum beat tingles my right bicep. A few Coldplay songs start the warmth in my feet and move up my legs as the song goes on. This isn't like standing by the subwoofer at a concert or feeling the vibrations of a motorcycle as you speed down the road. I'm not feeling some external vibrations. My sensations are not the result of some outside action. The sensations are created by the sounds. Yet, there is a flip side to this beauty. When I hear someone chewing, I get angry. Not like annoyed that the person is chewing that way, but actual anger. The smell of a crowded room punches me in the face. The sound of an air horn feels like I'm being hit by a truck. And the 100-degree desert is nothing short of torture every summer. When I'm watching a movie and hear a character's bone break, my bones hurt too, which is sometimes called phantom limb or phantom pain. While what I experience is a bit different, it's like missing an arm but still feeling that the arm is being touched. But growing up, this condition was never a gift. My classmates weaponized this joy in my life. They purposely made sounds they knew would hurt me and would do it often, pushing me until I cried. I never understood why they wanted me to hurt, and maybe I might have understood it if they could just see the beautiful colors of light emitting from me a changing color. But without synesthesia, they were just being bullies. It wasn't until I discovered my talent for writing in high school that I learned to embrace my nature. I took the senses I felt and wrote them out, crossed them against themselves, and turned them all into beautiful metaphor and imagery. I'd like to think I was the first to do this. I do feel like I discovered doing this on my own, but there are tons of instances of other writers doing this all throughout literature. I didn't tell people how my synesthesia allowed me to view the world through a haze of light and a barrage of touch. I still didn't trust people enough to not use my abilities as a way to hurt me. Outside of my writing, I hid my synesthesia, and I almost lost sight of the light. When I began college and I started suffering through some other personal issues, I learned to use my synesthesia to break down my pain into something beautiful. I used it to fuel my writing even more. I gave life to academic essays for all of my classes. I used synesthesia to give me a way to structure my thoughts. I spent my days outside with a pen as my sword and a notebook as my shield, and I faced and I wrote about all the sensations around me. Synesthesia became my secret weapon. But it still wasn't enough. The pain I had experienced growing up stayed with me into adulthood, and I was soon diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. Given my background, it wasn't all that surprising. That winter, I listened to music almost constantly, and it colored my mind with light in the midst of my deep depression. The music helped, but it wasn't a cure for how I was feeling. Of course, I knew deep down that there wasn't a cure for synesthesia, and I never really wanted it to truly go away. My depression continued to ravage my brain, and eventually, it got to the point where I knew I needed help. I chose to undergo a form of therapy to change my very neurology. Electroconvulsive therapy. The sensation of electromagnetic shocks to my brain felt like blue lightning running through every nerve in my body. Even though I saw beautiful stars every night, in those moments, I was still surrounded by darkness. One day, a snowstorm blew through town. The image of fine powdered snow carried on the wind out over a mountain valley is just beautiful by itself. But combined with synesthesia, it was outright inspiring. I struck a tree branch with my cane, and my world exploded into white crystals tinged with blue. Though I had long known the burning white light of the desert heat, I had never seen the gentle bluish light of the chilled winter winds, even in all the years I lived in those mountains. And when it mixed with the red light of a warm sun breaking through golden clouds, I felt inspired. It was the most beautiful thing that I had ever seen, and at that moment, I knew that my life had meaning. If my synesthesia could give me this much beauty in the world, then I could fight my obstacles and get through it. Depression and PTSD brought me down, but synesthesia lifted me back up. After being in darkness for so long, it helped me find the light again, and now I am finally happy.